Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for May 25th through May 31st, 2026, and I'm using the May Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this is the last week of May, so I'm using the Stories by the Month kit, which I have put out on this tray, which I absolutely love this tray that I got from Amazon. I think it's super useful for keeping my embellishments in while I'm working with the kit. Plus I have all the cards here, and it came with these label stickers this month. I also have my insert for my ephemera. I did not collect much ephemera in the month of May, so I'll have to figure that one out. I do have some though. I'm gonna put that to the side and work on this first. So let's see. This was the last month of May, and it was the last week of May, and it was immediately after Week in the Life. And I have been using these for my title card for these Stories by the Month. So I'm definitely gonna do that. So this week, because it was a week after Week in the Life, I wasn't taking a ton of photos and I was working a ton on that project. It was a short work week because we had Memorial Day, and then I have every other Friday off, and it happened to fall that I had the Friday off during this week. This was a work story, but otherwise I pretty much just I was at home crafting. And then I have a couple of photos from the rose bushes in my yard because I did trim them and they started to bloom. And yeah, that's it. So let's see what I have as far as cards. Actually, I think I probably want to put a photo here. This one will have a story with it, so then maybe I'll do like that. Okay, so this could be for some short stories. This year, this kit has come with these like 3 stories and stuff cards, and I've been using these in my stories album, so I'm not going to use that. And then let's see, we've got this, which would make a good story card. Got some filler cards. I'm just going to kind of look through these and see what I have to work with. That's what I figured that would be a repeated. And then there's these that go together. And then the vellum pieces. Let me look through what the 4x6 options are. I don't have any 4x6 pockets, but that doesn't mean I can't crop something down. I have been also saving these because these have been coming every month, so I'm going to put that to the side. If I didn't have my ephemera pockets, this card would be super cute for stapling ephemera on, or for this one. And then these actually pair up. So you could do this with, like, if you cut these out, you can make them flip ups, or some sort of like rotate with a brad or something. I think those would work really cute together. It's another 1, 2, 3. There's a few of these lined ones. One of them has words in it. And then the strawberries. I do like the strawberries, and we eat strawberries a lot. I'm not sure we had any during this week though. So normally what I do is I use my take a note for reference, but I actually am a little behind in my take a note. I'm going to catch up on that later today, but I'm also filming this pretty early, so it's still like the first week of June. And so instead of having my take a note, I have my everyday carry, and this I keep up with during the week itself. So this is actually what I normally use as my reference to do my take a note. Then I use my take a note as a reference for Project Life. But this week I'm going to use this as my reference. So, and you know, I don't need to do all of those things, but I enjoy them. This is the only one that I feel like I have to do kind of in the moment, because otherwise I will forget stuff. The take a note was really kind of supposed to be that, but I want it to look cute and I want to add photos, so I can't always do it like day of. And this usually takes me only a couple minutes each day. So let's see, we've got Memorial Day, and then I had to go downtown for work, so I have that story. And then I had a long office day, a couple long office days, and then I had my past day. I was working on project or week in the life almost the whole time, chatting with a friend. Summer came over for dinner. And then the weekend was pretty much just crafting. An annoying neighbor story, but I put that in my journal. I don't think I'm going to put that in here. So we didn't really have strawberries this week, so I'm not going to do the strawberry card, but I do want to tell, so this can be little stories about pruning the rose bushes and stuff like that. So I do want one for the longer like work story, but let's see, we've got like these repeated ones. There's 2 of them. I don't know that I want to use those. And I don't know that I have 3 stories for these, but I'm thinking I can maybe use this one and crop it. I think that might work really well to turn this into a 3x4 card to tell my work story, which I can put there. And then this one, I think I was going to cut down to put on top of here. But remember, I do also have all of these things. So we've got beautiful outside garden, which is also this garden outside, currently celebrating. So I always like to use all of something. I don't think this is going to work for this time. I don't want to force it. So what I'm gonna do is just put the currently one on here. So I was gonna cut this, remember this out and put that there, but I think that this is actually gonna look better. So I'm gonna use this one, put this on here. And then I feel like I also kind of want one on here because I think that that works, but I don't want it right next to that. So I'm gonna move it, maybe rotate like this and see if that works. And then the other ones I don't think are gonna work. Then we've got like the chipboard this month are these labels. And then we've got these larger cards here, which I could use these for journaling. And I could pair these with like one like this. I could crop that down and put this on top of there, which would actually be pretty good for a journaling card. I kind of like that idea. But I'm trying to think, what else do I have? So I'm gonna journal about my week in the life. I can do 3 micro stories. I can do my work story. And that I think is really it, but I have all these other spots to fill. So let's see, we have the 3 things, moments, May joys, and then there's also these little tags that all say love this. And then, so like these would work really well on like these photos, but I feel like they're a little big. I do have the This Is May ones though, so these ones might work really well. If I just stick these on all of my photos. Maybe something like that. Okay, so this is gonna be week in life. This is work. I need a filler here. So let's look back through what we had. We have some fillers here. We've got maybe like this one, I think. Maybe just by itself. And then on this side, I think we need, maybe this one could be a good filler with the May joys. And then I don't think I can do that many filler cards. I need to put something else, but I'm trying to think what else I want to tell. I do also have this one, so maybe I'll crop that one down and do another story for there. And then maybe I can do one more filler. So what else do we have? Maybe I can do this one. I'm not sure if that will crop. Where's my ruler? So to crop this, it has to be less than 3 inches. Yep, that'll work. And I'm gonna have to rearrange this because I don't want these two next to each other, but that fills all of my pockets. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put you guys on voiceover and crop everything down and start putting this one together. And then I will put together my ephemera pockets. Okay, so I already have my plan here, so I'm just kind of moving everything out of the way to kind of make my desk a little less messy. Sometimes when I'm creating, I have a mess everywhere on my desk and it doesn't really bother me until I'm done. And other times I just feel like I can't think until I move stuff out of the way. So I don't know if you can relate, but that was part of why I liked having this blue tray that I've been using for these Stories by the Month kits for the past couple of months, because it gives me a confined space to lay out the embellishments without having them kind of just all over my desk. So the first thing I'm doing here is just trimming everything down to fit on in each pocket. So some of these I have vellum cards, and these kits this year, they don't have as many vellum pieces as they have in the past, but there's still a decent amount of vellum, and I really love the extra texture that vellum provides, but I don't want that transparent piece in my pocket. Sometimes, occasionally, I will let that be transparent, but then you have to coordinate with the other side. And usually I want a fresh start on each spread. So what I've been doing is just cropping down some white cardstock and placing that behind it. So you can see I did that there with that red piece. And then I'm just kind of going around, trimming things down, adhering down pieces that I know where I want them to go before I start focusing on the details of each card. These 4x6 cards, I'm cropping them down to 3x4. So you're going to have the stripes go all the way across the card. If you wanted to do a different kind of stylized approach, you couldn't do it on the one with the text, but on the red and the purple one, you could crop it off center so that the stripes go all the way off one side, but not the other side. And I'd considered doing that, but I didn't want to do it because I have that the one with the sentiment as well. And you can't really do that because the word beautiful goes all the way across. I'm hoping that makes a little bit of sense. I wanted to shift some of these cards around because I didn't want those 3 cards that match to be touching. So I wanted them to kind of be balanced across the spread. And you'll see I kind of shift things around a little bit more as I go to make that seem a little bit more balanced. I also want to balance the colors. So I have 2 purple cards on the right-hand side and 2 red cards on the left-hand side. So I'm going to adjust that as well as I get to putting the spread together. I'm putting down these little die cut pieces that say "This is May" on some of my photos. And then I also have the die cut words. I did not use all of the die cut words. There were just too many and some of the sentiments were a little too specific. But I put the currently one in the middle of that 4x6 photo of me working on Week in the Life. And then I put the outside one and the garden one on 2 of my photos of my rose bushes. I really didn't have a lot going on this week. I spent most of the week working on Week in the Life. This also is the week directly after Week in the Life. And because I take so many photos during Week in the Life, I kind of wanted a break from taking photos this week. So I didn't take a ton. I did have those couple photos of my rose bushes because on Memorial Day, I got outside and finally pruned them, which is very late. I feel like we had a late winter or late spring this year. Winter went really long. And although I did most of my yard work to prep the yard in April as usual, I didn't prune my rose bushes because it was still a little bit cold out. So I did finally get to doing that, and now they are starting to bloom. So I wanted to capture that in my project. It's kind of funny because depending on when we do Week in the Life, we usually do it in the spring. Sometimes my roses are blooming and sometimes my tulips are blooming. This year, it fell in like that awkward week between the two where I had no flowers in my yard, which was a little frustrating because in Week in the Life, I usually like to do at least one full page photo that's a close-up of flowers in my yard, but that just didn't happen this year due to the timing. I also had a couple of photos this week that I had taken for Instagram sharing my process of Week in the Life. I have those 2 kind of in progress photos, and then this one of my mug that says I'm busy crafting or something like that. I'm crafting today, I think is what it says, because I had a full crafting day working on my project. I actually had a few during this week. Like I said, I had a short work week. So this week I pretty much just worked or worked on week in the life other than when I was doing yard work or just like normal life tasks. I was also getting ready for the month of June. And so I have the photo where I rotated out my mugs for summer. And then I also am just prepping for upcoming vacation in June. So you'll see that I show up in my album in just a couple of weeks. This 1, 2, 3 card I wanted to use to tell some of the micro stories from the week. Sometimes I do a bullet point list card. I usually do that, but I didn't do one this week. If I had wanted to, I definitely could have done it on one of those lined cards that I cropped down from 4x6 and had kind of 5 bullet points on one of those. But instead I used this for some longer stories. On here, I just stamped the word story on each one because I felt like it needed something. I don't know. I was originally considering stamping like a word related to my story, but I couldn't really think about what I wanted to stamp. And honestly, I didn't even know what my third story was going to be because I felt like I needed to tell my longer stories first and see what fit on these cards. So this first one I knew was going to be about work. This Alpha stamp set is now one of my favorites. It was from, I'm pretty sure this is from the new travel release from Ellie Edwards, and I'm obsessed with it. I've been using it on pretty much everything so far. I think I'd used it on Week in the Life, and I've been using it a lot. So I stamped the word work because this story is going to be about work. Hello, pumpkin. And I'm journaling about what I was working on this week. My job is pretty secretive, so I can't share a lot of what I do, but sometimes I will just share kind of overviews of, it's been a really busy time or I have a lot of litigation. This week I had to go downtown one day for a hearing, so I was able to just mention that that's what I was doing, and I have a photo of the parking pass for downtown just hanging in my car as one of my photos from this week. For the second card, I decided to journal about my daughter. She came over to dinner, and normally I don't think I would have made that a longer story, but I didn't have another longer story. Obviously I had the Week in the Life, but I made that in that little rectangular one at the beginning. So I wanted a third longer story to tell. So I journaled about her coming over for dinner, and then we gifted her some hand-me-down kitchen appliances, my old espresso maker and my old KitchenAid, and she was super excited. So I wanted to journal a little bit about that. After those cards were done, I came back to the 3-story card and just added one more story here to round out the journaling from my week. I didn't really talk about that Week in the Life card when I did it, so I just wanted to share a little bit. So that was one of the die cuts in the kit, and I think there were 3 or 4 of those. I only used the one here, but you definitely can make repeated journaling cards using that same format. Essentially, I cropped down one of the patterned vellum cards from 4x6 down to 3x4 and layered that on top. I really like how that came out. I also used my tiny attacher to attach that die cut piece at the bottom and just tie it together with some of my other photos. I had to trim quite a few of these down as I'm slipping in the pockets, and that's totally fine. I tend to do that a lot. I think I overcut them to 3x4 because I don't want them to be too small, and then I'll trim them as I'm slipping them in the pockets. The chipboard this month were labels, which honestly I don't love. I feel like I would prefer labels to be flat stickers, but I decided to use one of them here just to add a little bit of words about this parking pass because this is the first time I had borrowed it, and I was trying to decide whether or not I liked it or not. I'm just slipping everything into the pockets now. I didn't end up using any more label stickers or a label chipboard. After I used the one, I thought, okay, maybe I should use one somewhere else. But I had added the die cuts on pretty much all of my photos. And because they're 3x4 photos, there really isn't that much space on top of them. So I decided to just leave it as is and slip everything into the pockets and call this one done. Then I'm going to move on to working on my insert this month for my ephemera. So during the month, I put my Stories by the Month kit in a tray prior to the start of the month that it is for. And as I'm living life, I will slip things into that tray for ephemera that I want to include in my insert. So here's my insert. I set these up at the beginning of the year. If you watched my 2026 Project Life setup video, I shared how I set those up. I also had created a free download in 2025. So if you are interested in doing something similar, you can use that. It's still available, and all of those things are linked in the description box below. I did not save that much ephemera this month. I had a few things, but I was just busy. And a couple of the ones that I had collected during Week in the Life, I used in that album. And I just wasn't focused on collecting ephemera, which is kind of different because I had really gotten into the habit. I've been doing these ephemera pockets or some sort of ephemera collection in Week in the Life or in Project Life for the last 3 years now. So it really had become part of my routine. And I just, for whatever reason, I didn't get that much this month. I have a couple of things. You can see I'm trimming them down. And what I end up doing is cutting more than one thing out of some of these things. So this one is a shopping bag from a new store that came in my city. And it is not I wasn't thrilled with the store. I don't think I'll be back, but I liked the bag and I did buy a couple of things for my daughter while we were there. Or maybe just one thing. But anyways, so I got the bag and I wanted to include that here. I also have these wrappers that we have been using to make one of our new meals in our rotation. So I put some of that packaging. Because I had extra pockets, I just trimmed a couple of pieces across a few of them rather than having just a small snippet of the package. And that worked really well. I'm doing the same with this little guy from this bag. This bag was actually really easy to cut out, so I really liked the texture of it. And then I decided, I could use more of this packaging here to add just a little bit more to one of the pockets. So I really didn't collect that much this month, but I made it fill the entire front. I also had the scrap of this vellum piece, so I decided to fill this final pocket with some die cuts. I added one of the die cuts from the kit. And then I went into my stash of chipboard. I have my chipboard organized in drawers below my desk, and I have a separate video sharing how I organize those if you are interested. But I went through my spring ones and found one that says Dear May and just added that on there to insert in that final pocket. Then I went over to my stash of 6x8 papers and I pulled over this paper from Allie Edwards. I believe this was in one of the quarterly scrapbook kits. And I'm slipping, actually, you know what? It might have been from a story kit. Whatever. I'm slipping these into the backs of these pockets. I wanted to just trim it down and fill in the pockets here. It's just a good way to make this look finished and to use up a paper in my stash. This paper had colors on it that went well with this spread, but it really wasn't my favorite paper. So it was probably one I wasn't going to ever select for an actual layout. So just adding it in here in the pockets was a good way to just use that piece up from my stash and make this look a little bit more finished when I didn't have that much ephemera to include. Here is a look at how the completed spread came together. There are definitely more images over on Instagram if you want to head over there. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.